Hey everybody, thanks for stopping by. Today I'm going to share with you a recipe that's been the talk of many parties and holidays. Empanadas. We are going to be using a mushroom duxelle and goat cheese filling for our empanadas today. Duxelle is a fancy word for finely chopped mushrooms that are cooked with onions, herbs, black pepper, usually in butter until it's reduced to a paste. Then we're going to add a little bit of fortified wine to it. You can use a sweet vermouth or sherry, Madeira, something like that if you would like. And then fold in our goat cheese and refrigerate. But first, we need to work on our empanada dough. So let's get started. We're gonna get started with our dough preparation here. I have 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour here that I'm gonna sift into this bowl. Let's do that first. So, sift it. Now, a very interesting step here. Butter, 4 ounces that I have frozen for about 30 minutes or so. And I'm gonna grate it into this flour here. There we go. It looks like cheddar cheese. Ooh, okay, that butter's getting slippery. Be careful. Just lightly push the rest of this through. Careful not to cut yourself. Pull all of that through. Now this is a dough that we're gonna make without a stand-up mixer. All we need is a fork and a couple of strong hands. I'm just gonna give this a quick little mix here. That flour and butter incorporated a little bit. Now I'm going to get my liquid mixture together. So I have 1 egg cracked here, and I'm going to beat the egg with a 1/3 cup of iced water. So I have a glass of iced water here. Here we go. Okay, water and egg together. Now we're going to do 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar and 2 teaspoons of salt. 1, 2. I'll mix all that together. And my flour with the butter. My liquid mixture ready to go with my salt and everything. And now, I'm going to fork this all together. Okay, we have most of that dry flour hydrated there. So, getting to the point now where we can start using our hands. I like the fork because the separate tines can kind of bring together those ingredients a little bit more effectively here. But yeah, once it's all hydrated like this, got a nice little crumbly mess, it's time to start pushing and folding that stuff together. So I'm going to clean off my fork here. Make sure to get all those little bits in there. And I'm just going to start with a little press and fold. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's coming together real nice. Awesome. I think we can get rid of the bowl now. All right. So we are kneading the dough here. Got a bunch of water right here. Okay. And we don't want to go too far with this. We want to give this some time to rest as well before we start working with it. So I think those ingredients are well incorporated. Nice little ball there. I'm going to wrap that up in some plastic wrap and put that in the fridge for about an hour. Next, we're going to start with the Duxelle filling. First, we're going to start with some cremini mushrooms. We're going to take the stems off of these guys. They're a little woody, but you can save them for later use. So what I like to do is just grip the top here and just kind of bend that one way, and you get the whole stem to be removed, just like that. These guys go in the bag. So I'm going to use a food processor for the mushrooms. You can small dice these yourself by hand. This is just going to save a little bit of time. We're looking for 2 cups of finished chopped mushroom. Just keep kicking around, why don't you chop it up? Up, or at least just broken these up a little bit before I put them in. Maybe that would have helped, because right now they're just kind of kicking around. Do your job. Just hand chopped it. Mushrooms have a lot of moisture. We're going to get some of that moisture out right now. So I have a little cheesecloth here. I'm going to put it over this colander that's in a bowl. Slide all this stuff in there. Looks like booby. There we go. So I'm using just creminis this time. You can do a mixture of any type of mushrooms that you really like, chanterelle, shiitakes, anything like that. I think they're all great in here. Look at all that. Look at all that moisture. Nice big push here. God, it looks like red wine or something. So much moisture. Look at all that. All right. Small diced shallot. Okay, we're gonna pause for emotional difficulties. I'm ready to start cooking my Duxelle mix here. Start getting that pan nice and hot. I'm gonna start out with a little bit of oil. Okay, get that hot. I also have butter here. It's at about room temperature, so I can add that to it as well. My beautiful mushroom mix. Crumble that in. Okay, I also have some time here that I'm going to work on picking while my Duxelle is cooking. My eyes are so puffy and irritated from those shallots. Alright, let's get some salt and pepper in the mix. Salt again is going to help draw out that moisture. And black pepper, traditional spice in the Duxelle recipe. Gotta have it. And it wouldn't be a proper Duxelle without some butter. A couple tablespoons of butter here. Throw that in there. Oh, that can take more. Another couple tablespoons. Very paste-like, like we want. It's going to add our shallots in there. Back to picking time. Nice little hold from one side, lightly hold from the other so you can peel all that time off. I got blisters on my eyeballs. It's just real dark. It's like some shiitakes or some chanterelles or something like that's going to bring a little bit more color to this mix, which might look a little bit better, but it's still going to taste delicious. And this filling is going to be inside the empanada, which is going to be a nice golden case for it. So I'm not too worried about it. I just, you know, film it. You guys are looking at it like, oh, it doesn't look so good, but you can't smell it. It smells very good. Okay, those shallots have sweat nicely. They're infusing some flavor into this cremini mix here. I am searing to the bottom of the pan a little earlier than I would like. So I'm gonna add a little bit of oil and a bit of butter. And you know what? That mixture is looking beautiful. I'm gonna toss in some of this thyme. Get that going in that butter. I like to bloom any herbs or spices when there's a bit of oil and fat in the pan there. Starting to caramelize a little bit. They're starting to get to that brown color, sticking to the pan a little bit. Totally fine, because we are going to use a little bit of this fortified wine. And now my dough has been in the fridge for an hour. So I'm going to pull that out and just let that temper a little bit so it's ready to use as soon as this is ready to go. There she is, nice and cold. Just going to set that down, room temperature. Okay, I'm going to deglaze with that fortified white wine. Nice healthy splash. About a quarter cup or so. Scraping all of that good stuff off of the pan. Getting my Duxelle paste all together in the center here. I'm going to let that alcohol burn off a bit. Empanada filling can be a lot of different things, but it can't be too wet. That's one thing that we need to keep in mind. When it's too wet, it ends up oozing out of the side no matter how well you get that crimp on the side of your empanada. So we want to take that moisture down a bit in the pan so we get back to that tacky kind of finish. I finished cooking my mixture here. I burned off a lot of the boozy flavor. There is definitely still a little bit of a taste of, not so much boozy, but definitely that wine flavor is there. And the fat from the goat cheese is going to cut that a bit. So it's going to come out to a really well-rounded filling. So there's my mix. It's in a bowl. I'm just spreading it out so it's going to cool a little bit faster. I'm going to put that in the fridge and let that cool down completely before I add the goat cheese. Otherwise the goat cheese is just going to break and we'll just have like a liquidy mess. So cool that down, and while that's cooling, we're gonna get our empanada dough rings ready to go. I'm ready to roll out my dough. Just want to talk to you real fast about this little device here. You can get this at your local grocery store. This is a 4-inch Empanada Press here. So it's a really awesome tool. The back side is actually a cutter for the exact diameter of the front side, which is the crimper. It's an awesome tool. If you don't have one of these, we're going to go over how to cut with something about the same size. This is another kind of 4-inch bowl here, and I'm going to place this over the dough, cut around it, and then show you a hand crimp or a fork crimp method. Okay, I'm gonna go thinner than this. Cut this in half, make it a little bit easier to work with. Put that on a resting tray. A nice little half piece here to work with. And this dough has all of that butter in it, so it doesn't really want to stick all that quickly. But if it gets too warm or you work it too much, it will start sweating out that fat, so we don't want that to happen. You just want to work it enough to get it to the thickness that we want. And I like to do it pretty thin. When I pull it back, I can see light through it. I can see the shadow of my fingers through it. It's just about there. All right, feel good about that. Let me use that cutter first on this one. And so if I wanted to use this guy, put that down softly, sharp knife, with the tip on the outside. I'm just dragging it around. Now I'm just gonna flour up my fingers just a little bit. I'm gonna pick these guys up and put them on my resting tray. The idea when you transport them is to not pull them side to side or anything like that. I have my fingers around the entire thing and I'm trying to keep that circle shape the whole way over. If you get a little hole, just try and pinch those together. Get some flour on my rolling pin. Try and do this quickly. Okay. Come back through with my cutter. I'm trying as much as I can to just press down. It's very tempting to twist back and forth to try and get that cut, but you definitely get more shrinkage if you end up doing that. There we are. Okay. Now we got our scrap pieces. Lay those all out. Put my other little pile right on top. Let's just press that down. Try and get the edges uniform. All right, let's get our fill ready. Got our mix out of the fridge here, nice and cool. Gonna mix in our 4 ounces of goat cheese. I think it can take a little bit more. All right, that's a nice color there. It's a nice consistency. Filling is ready. This is going to be used for the egg wash for the top of the empanadas before they go into the oven. We're going to preheat that oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to do the first round here with the Empanada Press. Stretching that dough to the outside of the press. Let's try out our first empanada here. Got on our crimper. I'm going to stretch out this dough to get to all the edges here. Okay, we're going to get a little ball of filling in there. This is almost a tablespoon here, looks like. Start with that. A little bit of water, dip your fingers in it, and just run it along one edge here. That's going to help to activate some of that gluten and flour there. Get a nice seal. Okay, crimp. Nice even pressure along the ridges there. And this, at this point, you can pull off the excess dough outside of the mold. And open her up. Pop it out, there it is. It's a good fill there. There's a little bit of pockets here. You can kind of push that down till it gets to all those edges, but that's a nice seal right there. And we can poke a hole in the top to try and release some of that pressure, but I think that's pretty good there. Let's set that on the resting tray and let's make a couple dozen more. All right, I have about 20 or so. I'm gonna show you how to do a couple different hand folding techniques here. Like I've already used the rolling pin and stretched this out to try and make a nice uniform circle. It's about as good as it gets. And plop that filling there right in the center. Definitely still needs some moisture there on the rim. So half of it gets a little bit of water. The other half comes on top. Okay, and then just lightly press down with your fingers just to get that seam started. You can press down on the filling too, stretch it out. And with a fork, we can crimp down the edges like this. It's not the most uniform or anything, but it's a good solid crimp. Now this one's a little difficult to follow. Same thing, right? Just put a little bit of moisture there at the bottom half. Fold it over. Get that crimp started. Now, starting from the corner, we're going to fold in and grab that next little corner and fold over. And then as we go, we always have a little edge to use. We roll that over and over and over, all the way around. Like that. Okay, our oven's just about preheated. I have my empanadas done here. I'm going to do my egg wash, which again is just one egg mixed with a little bit of water. Do a nice generous brushing on them. And I'm going to do a couple different toppings here. I really like to use turbinado sugar as a topping here, and I really like black pepper as well. So I'm going to do a couple that are just sugar, a couple that are just pepper, and then a few that are both. And you can decide what you want to do for toppings. Now our filling is already cooked, so that's kind of like the main difference between an empanada and like a British pasty. So it doesn't need to be in the oven for very long, and I would like to see if scoring some of these less full ones and some of these really full ones helps, or if it's unnecessary. So I'm just going to score a couple different ones. Just doing 2 little points. My turbinado sugar here. I'm going to do black pepper on these. 375, good to go. Here we go. Empanada crusts are starting to set. Not enough color on here yet. You can see that they're still a little tender on there. I did up the temperature, so it's at 400 now. I want to push them at 400 degrees for another 6 minutes or so. Just keep an eye on it. Our empanadas are done. They're looking beautiful. So a couple things we learned. Higher temperature is going to be better for baking these off. Our filling is already cooked, so we don't need to worry about bringing that up to temperature. All that does at a lower temperature is heat up that filling to a point where it expands so much that it breaks out of the crust that has not formed yet. A higher temperature means that the crust is going to set quicker. You want that golden brown there. They all look really tasty. So I have them on a wire rack right now. I'm going to let them cool off for probably about 15-20 minutes or so, and then they're ready to go. As far as keeping them, I would let them cool all the way, like for an hour or so, and then I would freeze them and rebake them at like 350 for like 5 or 8 minutes. They look delicious. I'm really excited to eat them, and thanks for stopping by. I hope you liked the video. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe, and check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/NickBecomesAChef.